The research vessel Nautilus drifted silently above the vast aquamarine expanse of Kepler 238, its sophisticated sensors probing the depths below. Chief Scientist Raina Patel stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing real-time data from the ocean planet's depths. After 3 years of studying this water world, something had finally changed. "Dr. Patel, you need to see this," called out Navigation Officer James O'Neill, his Irish accent thick with excitement. The sonic patterns were picking up. They're not random anymore. Raina hurried to his station, her heart racing. The display showed clear, repetitive patterns in the underwater acoustic signatures, patterns too regular to be natural. "Run it through the xenolinguistic matrix," she ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. The ship's AI processed the data, displaying a complex analysis of the sound patterns. They weren't just regular. They were mathematical. Perfect prime number sequences, encoded in sonic pulses. "It's impossible," whispered Dr. Takashi Yamamoto, the team's xenobiologist. "The evolutionary path required for aquatic mammals to develop this level of intelligence. Clearly not impossible," Raina replied, pointing to a new set of readings. "Look at these energy signatures. There are artificial structures down there, hidden in the deeper trenches. We've been so focused on the shallow waters, we missed an entire civilization." The first visual confirmation came 3 days later. The Nautilus's deep-sea drones captured footage of what could only be described as an underwater city. Bioluminescent structures curved gracefully through the darkness, their architecture both alien and somehow familiar. But it was the inhabitants that left the crew speechless. They were roughly the size of Earth otters, but with more elongated bodies and slightly larger heads. Their fur shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to shift and change. A form of communication, the scientists quickly realized. They moved through their underwater world with impossible grace, using sophisticated tools and operating vehicles that appeared to work on principles of hydrodynamics far beyond current human understanding. "They're not just intelligent," Raina announced during the emergency briefing with Earth Command. "They have technology that might be equal to or even superior to ours, at least in their environment. And they know we're here." The evidence was undeniable. The species, temporarily designated as Aquasapiens, had begun arranging patterns on the seafloor visible from above. Perfect geometric shapes, circles, squares, triangles. A clear attempt at communication. "What's our next move?" asked Captain Diana Torres, her weathered face serious as she addressed the crew. "First contact protocols are clear, but they were written with the assumption of landing and face-to-face meetings. This is different." Raina stepped forward, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to respond in kind. They're using universal mathematical concepts. We can build on that. Show them we understand, that we're also intelligent beings seeking peaceful contact." The next week was a flurry of activity as the crew worked to develop a communication system. They deployed specialized underwater speakers to respond with their own mathematical sequences. The response was immediate. The Aquasapiens began replicating and building upon their patterns, demonstrating not just intelligence, but a keen desire to communicate. Then came the breakthrough. One of the creatures approached a drone, carrying what appeared to be a sphere of swirling water, somehow held together without containment. Inside the sphere was a pattern of bioluminescent particles, arranging and rearranging themselves in complex sequences. "It's a 3-dimensional language," Raina realized, watching the patterns shift and flow. "They're not just communicating. They're showing us how they think, how they see the world." As the first part of their extraordinary discovery drew to a close, the crew of the Nautilus knew they stood on the brink of something unprecedented. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be with beings from distant stars, but with an incredible civilization that had evolved right alongside them on a water world, hidden in the depths of space. The question now wasn't just how to communicate, it was how to bridge the gap between two species that had evolved to thrive in completely different environments. As Reyna watched another sphere of luminescent patterns rise toward their drone, she couldn't help but smile. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The arrival of Earth's diplomatic vessel, the Concordia, brought a new energy to Kepler-238's orbit. Its sleek hull, twice the size of the Nautilus, gleamed in the alien sun's light. Reyna watched through the observation window as the diplomatic shuttle prepared for its historic descent. "Nervous?" asked Ambassador Kai Nakamura, adjusting his pressure suit. The veteran diplomat had arrived with a team of xenolinguists, anthropologists, and first contact specialists, but he'd specifically requested Reyna to join the first descent team. "Terrified," she admitted, "but in a good way. We've spent weeks communicating through drones and signals. Actually meeting them." She trailed off, watching the final preparations for their specialized submersible. The descent vehicle, dubbed Nautilus Prime, was a marvel of human engineering. Its transparent aluminum hull and advanced pressure systems would allow them to reach the depths where the Aquasapiens lived while maintaining a breathable atmosphere inside. As they began their descent, the alien ocean revealed its secrets layer by layer. Bioluminescent life forms drifted past like living constellations. Schools of creatures that defied Earth's biological categories moved in mathematical patterns through the crystalline water. "Multiple contacts approaching," announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their sensory specialist. "Definitely Aquasapiens, but they're different from our previous observations." Through the submersible's windows, they watched as a delegation of the alien beings approached. These weren't the regular members of the species they'd observed before. These individuals were adorned with complex patterns of bioluminescence that seemed to flow like liquid mathematics across their bodies. They wore what appeared to be ceremonial garments that moved with the water currents yet maintained their shape. "They have a hierarchical society," Ambassador Nakamura observed. "Those patterns must denote rank or role." The lead Aquasapiens carried another of their mysterious water spheres, but this one was larger and more complex than any they'd seen before. As it approached the submersible, the patterns inside began to shift and transform. "It's a translation matrix," Reyna gasped, watching the patterns align with mathematical sequences they'd exchanged earlier. "They've created a three-dimensional language key for us." The next few hours were a blur of breakthrough moments. The Aquasapiens, through their sophisticated hydrokinetic technology, created a neutral meeting space, a bubble of perfectly controlled water pressure that allowed both species to interact more directly. They learned that the species called themselves the Lumini, and their civilization had evolved over millennia in the planet's depths. Their manipulation of water wasn't just technology. It was art, language, and culture all in one. "Watch this," Reyna said excitedly, using their newly developed translation device to create a simple pattern in a water sphere. The meaning was basic. Humans come from above water. The response from the Lumini was unexpected. A ripple of what could only be described as laughter passed through their gathered delegation, their bioluminescent patterns flickering in synchronized amusement. One of them, who they came to know as Grand Interpreter Vilara, created a response sphere. "Of course you do. We've watched your kind stumble through the shallows for years. We wondered when you'd finally look deeper." The revelation stunned the human delegation. The Lumini hadn't just recently discovered humans. They'd been studying them all along, waiting for humanity to advance enough to make meaningful contact. But it was what happened next that truly changed everything. Vilara's patterns shifted to convey a more serious message. "We have much to discuss. Your world above faces challenges we've long since solved, and we face threats in the deep you might help us understand." Ambassador Nakamura leaned forward, his diplomatic training momentarily forgotten in the face of pure wonder. "Are they proposing an alliance?" "No," Reyna replied, studying the patterns more carefully. "They're proposing a partnership. Look at the symmetry in their patterns. It's not about one species helping the other. It's about finding balance." As their first direct meeting continued, Both species began to realize just how complementary their civilizations might be. The Lumini's mastery of hydrokinetics and pressure manipulation could revolutionize human ocean exploration and energy production. Meanwhile, human space travel technology could help the Lumini explore the cosmic ocean they'd only theorized about. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings created moments of tension. The Lumini's concept of time, shaped by the eternal rhythms of ocean currents, clashed with humanity's more rigid chronological thinking. Their fluid approach to personal space, natural for a species that lived in three-dimensional water space, sometimes made the humans uncomfortable. Yet each misunderstanding became an opportunity for learning. When a junior diplomat accidentally insulted a Lumini elder by maintaining too rigid a posture, seen as a sign of aggression in their culture, the resulting discussion about body language opened new channels of understanding between the species. As the first day of direct contact drew to a close, Reyna found herself creating one last message sphere, this one filled with patterns expressing hope and curiosity about the future. The response from Velara was immediate, a cascade of patterns that translated roughly to, "The currents of fate have brought our species together. Now let us see where they take us." The next 3 months transformed the waters of Kepler 238 into a hub of interspecies collaboration. The humans established an underwater research station, dubbed Convergence, using Lumini hydrokinetic technology to maintain its structure against the crushing depths. Reyna spent countless hours working with Velara in the station's main laboratory, where they made breakthrough after breakthrough. The Lumini's understanding of fluid dynamics surpassed anything humans had achieved. Their water sphere technology wasn't just for communication, it was the foundation of their entire civilization. It's not manipulation of water, Reyna explained during a briefing with Earth Command. It's understanding water at a quantum level. They don't fight against pressure, they work with it. The Lumini, in turn, were fascinated by human space travel. When shown holographic displays of Earth's solar system, their patterns erupted in complex sequences that the translators took hours to decode. They saw space as another kind of ocean, vast and full of currents they longed to explore. But the most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a cultural exchange session, a young Lumini scientist named Zir created a water sphere that contained something impossible, a perfectly preserved bubble of air. "This changes everything," Dr. Tanaka breathed. Analyzing the sphere, they can create stable environments in any medium. Do you understand what this means for space exploration? The implications were staggering. Lumini technology could revolutionize human spacecraft design, creating ships that adapted to space like their bodies adapted to water pressure. Meanwhile, human electronics and computing systems offered the Lumini new ways to process and store their vast knowledge base. The crisis began with a tremor. Deep beneath the Lumini's primary city, tectonic plates shifted, triggering a chain reaction that threatened to destroy everything they'd built. Underwater volcanoes began to activate, spewing toxic gases and superheated water into the delicate ecosystem. The thermal currents are destabilizing. Velara's patterns showed urgency they'd never seen before. If they collapse, our city's pressure maintenance will fail. We'll lose everything. The human response was immediate. The Concordia, still in orbit, redirected its sensors to map the seafloor activity. The Lumini's understanding of water currents combined with human geological expertise painted a clear but terrifying picture. They had less than 48 hours before the situation became catastrophic. "We need to think differently," Reyna insisted during the emergency council. "We're not fighting against nature. That's not the Lumini way. We need to redirect the currents, like they do with their water spheres, but on a massive scale." What followed was the most ambitious collaboration yet. Human mining vessels, guided by Lumini sensory expertise, drilled precise channels in the seafloor. The Lumini used their hydrokinetic technology to create massive current redirectors. while human energy shields protected the workers from the increasing heat. As the clock ticked down, both species worked in perfect harmony. The Lumini's fluid grace complemented human technological precision. When the final current redirector was activated, the effect was beautiful. Rivers of superheated water began flowing away from the city in a complex pattern that looked almost like art. 1 year after first contact, the waters of Kepler-238 looked very different. A permanent human embassy had been established, its architecture a blend of human and Lumini design. Regular transport ships arrived from Earth, carrying scientists and diplomats eager to learn from their aquatic allies. But the real change was happening in space. The first joint human-Lumini spacecraft was nearing completion in Earth's orbit. Named Oceanus, it incorporated Lumini pressure management systems with human propulsion technology. It would be the first of many vessels designed to explore the galaxy through the combined wisdom of both species. Reyna stood in the Convergence Station's observation dome, watching a group of human children from the embassy school swimming with young Lumini. The children wore specially designed suits that let them move almost as gracefully as their alien friends. Their laughter translated perfectly, even without the pattern spheres. "They don't see differences anymore," Ambassador Nakamura observed, joining her at the window. "To them, this is just normal." Vilara's patterns rippled in agreement. "The young ones teach us the most important lessons. They understand that whether we swim through water or float through space, we're all exploring the same cosmic ocean." As Reyna watched the children play, she reflected on how far they'd come. The initial fear and uncertainty had given way to something beautiful, two species learning that their differences made them stronger together. A new water sphere appeared before her, created by Vilara. Its pattern spoke of future possibilities. Joint colonies on other water worlds, discoveries waiting to be made, a galaxy of wonders to explore together. The sphere's final pattern translated simply, "This is just the beginning." Looking at the children swimming below, their movements already incorporating both human and Lumini styles, Reyna knew it was true. They hadn't just made first contact with an alien species, they'd discovered a new way of seeing the universe itself. And somewhere out there, in the vast cosmic ocean, other discoveries waited. Other species, other ways of thinking, other possibilities. The journey that began with a curious signal from the depths had opened up an infinity of new horizons. The future, like water itself, would find its own level, and it would be beautiful.